Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys, how's it going?
And also this week
I'm not going to talk about weather stuff today. Sorry.
The weather's still decent, if you wanted an update on that. But this week we are also once again joined by Trey, aka NHP Shaka, who is the author of the field guide to Mfecane, sorry.
Hey, you're good. Hey, yep, here again, and I'm proudly announcing that the first day of summer started here in Minneapolis yesterday. So, yeah, we're happy. I'm happy. Well, I'm maybe not so happy to be inside, but I'm happy to look outside right now.
Right. It's finally air conditioning season.
Totally.
Stop, Calvin. Go outside.
I was just outside. That's why I need the AC. So,
okay.
This week we did want to talk some more about the field guide and go over more Lancer stuff because we had a lot of fun doing that. Just in general, this month kind of ended up being a whole Lancer month for us. And we've got another stream coming up that will actually have been out before you hear this episode. So
Nice.
This will be a little bit retroactive, but yeah, we've had a lot of fun with Lancer this month, so we're going to close it off with another stream and another look at this awesome field guide. Of course, this podcast is all about tabletop RPGs, playing them, running them, and just sort of communicating our tips and ideas for how to make hopping on the other side of the screen a little bit easier. And of course, if you have any specific questions with regards to if you have some sort of trouble with running a game, then you can just drop those in the comments or hit us up on Twitter and Facebook, and we can try to squeeze those into an episode. But first off, before we get into the meat of the show, we have to do our Win with Dice weekly DM tip of the week. With
Oh no.
Oh no, the dreaded GM tip of the week. Choke.
Oh, guys, I am a river to my people. Okay, I will dispense the knowledge. All right, okay. And on the theme of Lancer month, I'm gonna give some Lancer advice. I think that you mentioned last week when you were on, Trey, that don't put too many strikers onto the battlefield, right? And I totally get that. And yeah, it's definitely just going to be a bloodbath, and everyone's going to get their mechs wrecked and all that stuff. But I think what you have to do is give your striker mechs maybe something else to do instead of just apply the attack button to whatever cool, awesome PC killer weapon they have. You know what I mean? I found pretty good success with the spacer template. The gravity rifle is probably one of the best ways for you to turn a striker into a striker controller and give them the ability to pull people out of cover, especially melee strikers. Oh man, the look on someone's face when they're like, oh no, now I'm in front of this Ronin. And they're like, it's over. Right? Sheath the sword, split in half.
Oh my God.
All sorts of ridiculousness.
I will second that 1000%. Right? Preparing an action with the spacer template and the gravity rifle on an assault pattern or whatever. Making someone slowed. I think it doesn't make them slowed. No, that's the not the breacher, the barricade that can make
the
them
barricade.
Slow.
Yeah, the barricade.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah.
But messing them up like that, messing up the game plan is almost better than structuring a player, honestly.
Oh yeah, totally. It's twofold, right? Because you hit with it, but then they have to make a hull save, right? So then it's there's two layers of the PCs can get off scot-free, and then if they're having an easier time, you just lay off the gravity rifle and just go full force into whatever they're good at, right? So those little levers you can pull to make all of the action exciting without being totally destructive, unless you're going for something like that, which then put up everybody has specters and assaults.
Dreaded specter assault combo. Yeah, totally. I mean,
nowhere is safe.
I think they say it in the beginning of Lancer somewhere in like the GM section or whatever. It's like combat in Lancer should be a puzzle, and like introducing like templates like that to like assault patterns like really contributes to that puzzle, I think. Because like it's not like I'm gonna brutalize you. It's like I'm gonna mess up your mind and then brutalize you.
Yeah. Gonna break your mind before you break your body. All right, cool. Yeah, that's your weekly GM tip of the week. I got it this time, folks.
You got it in there. Yeah, I do think that is also applicable outside of just Lancer, like in pretty much every game. There are definitely things you can get your characters to do, even the ones that are your NPC characters, I should say. Even the ones that are made for getting in there and doing the most damage. You can definitely adapt them and just have them do something else. It's definitely something that I want to work on in my Pathfinder games, because the way they structure attacking in that game, if you do it like more than once per turn, it's made to get worse and worse. So it's better for your characters to do different things, even if they're not specifically made for that. And then again, your players have to adapt to that, so they don't just have the strategy of, well, I'll just keep making myself harder to hit or give myself like more of a chance to take damage. They then have to compensate with, well, this thing's moving me out of position, or it's moving somewhere I don't want it, or now it's further away, or it's hitting me with something I'm not expecting.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, just again, keeping combat interesting. You nailed the tip this week, Juan.
Yay!
I did it. We don't often get such good quality tips out of me, but I like this one. All right, cool, awesome. Trey, you're here once again. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir.
It's awesome to have you on the podcast. Yeah, we're going to continue our talk on the stuff that you're putting out. So I believe so, Calvin. I don't know, Calvin has the schedule.
Take it away, maestro.
Yeah. I'm the one with the notes. But yes, we did want to go into sort of an overfield field guide to Mfecane. I was wondering like how in depth you wanted to go with it. If you want to just like fully describe the setting and everything and the histories of it, or because last time we didn't really go into those specifics. Yeah. But we did talk a lot about the setting itself and Lancer as a game. So I was thinking maybe this time we go more into the setting and then just cover Lancer stuff and other stuff as it comes up.
Totally, yeah. I think in the beginning, like when we did our last one, it was like more of the rationale behind doing it and the inspiration behind doing it. But then like, yeah, I'd be interested in talking about like what's actually in it. Yeah, that'd be good. Cool. Yeah, so we're gonna take it off from the top.
Sure, we can, I guess, start from the beginning. Would that be with the 11th arc ship, or is there somewhere earlier we should start in this timeline, or how should we describe this timeline of this setting?
Yeah, let's take it off from the 11th arc ship. So like, I guess in writing like the story here, like the whole field guide is written from the perspective of Bantu. She is the administrator of Ukwa Station. She is a former MP of the Loins Order, but now is a foundational member of the Mfecane, at least for like in terms of Ukwa Station goes. And the Mfecane, again, is like the law political body of Mfecane. And she and Shaka essentially petitioned Mfecane higher order to construct Ukwa Station. And Ukwa Station is a place where it's a place where Shaka can circumvent the political kind of mire of Mfecane politics, and then just like take in a whole bunch of Lancers who can do its bidding without having to go through the Mfecane and stuff. And so Bantu is writing this story from her perspective, and then kind of giving an overview of Mfecane, from that same perspective. And so, so she kind of like, as the field guide starts and as we go into like the 11th arc ship, it's her retelling her interpretation of what Mfecane is. And that interpretation is a little murky in areas because Mfecane history is based off of a lie and a truth. And then the field guide described it as like Kwala, which is like truth. And I think in Zulu, it means honesty, and then Ukuzalawa, which means myth. There's like those two aspects, whatever. And so she like flip-flops between the two to kind of describe like what that remembered history is. So and then kind of goes off from there. It's like the 11th arc ship. It's like, in true Lancer lore, There are 10 ships that left Cradle during the collapse to go out and settle the galaxy, ensure humanity's survival. And then, some of those ships ended up being like the Kraken Trade Barons, and then some of the ships were like the On, and then I think some of the ships were like the other corporal states or whatever. But I took it from the perspective of like, all right, there can't only be 10 ships. And like those 10 ships were probably funded by like UN or whatever, the equivalent of UN way back when. And it's like, yeah, they had like valiant goals. Yeah, they had like valiant goals and like, like nice aspirations. But there's always like, we know humanity, right? Like there's always folks who have like other means and other, have means and other incentives for carrying out those means. And that's what the 11th ARC ship is. It's that ship that's funded by the bloated and worked by the downtrodden, quoted.
Okay. So like the 11th ARC is more like it's like the upper crust of society is like, well, we could just make our own ship.
Totally. Yeah.
And do our own thing. Right?
Yeah. And that's a real thing, right? Like we see like, Elon Musk and SpaceX just like, yeah, we're going to start our own government on Mars and we're going to be sovereign. And it's like, that's too real, right? That's almost too real to not include in a setting that sets it up like this.
That's true. I mean, all power to Elon Musk, man. Like, I want that Mars base. That'd be pretty dope. I don't know how we're gonna interact because it's Mars. But like, thanks, man. I know. Send me those memes.
I know.
That 11-minute delay, like
in canon, Elon Musk is the progenitor of the Kraken Trade Barons. So yeah, so we know that.
It totally makes sense. I mean, it has that kind of vibe, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So
nice. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Calvin.
I was going to say, from our last episode, there was this specific story you had mentioned as part of the inspiration for the field guide, and I guess I could really mostly see it as I was reading it. I could really see that inside the as I was going through like the intro and the timeline with regards to this 11th ship. I can't at the moment recall the name of the story.
It's Unkindness of Ghosts by River Solomon.
Right, and like it had described like this journey and these people who were different sort of like classes, and I could just like really feel that influence as I was reading this story. It was just sort of like a what's the word, microcosm, I want to say, of just like this specific like system of oppressed and oppressors, just like not even like not on a planet, but just in this one ship, which I thought was really interesting. Especially considering like it feels like it would have had to been traveling for a long time because this was pre-Blink Space, if I'm understanding my Lancer lore.
Yep. Pre-Blink Space. Yep.
Okay, I know what Blink Space is.
I know trigonometry.
So, I'm just imagining like this journey taking like multiple generations and this entire history that happens like in this relatively small space. And I think too. And how it.
Go ahead. I think too like the people described on the 11th ARC ship, which would soon be identified as Mfecane. I named them the Amabantu, which is I think ancestors in Zulu, but like they weren't from a specific like racial group. They're just a bunch of people who were just systematically destined to kind of work ensure that the journey, the long journey, is survived by what I call the heart and the head of the ship. But they're pretty much just like the bloated, the people who funded the journey. But like they could be anybody, right? Like that story right there, it could literally be any racial group. And I think because of my desire to tell like an Afrocentric story, they're predominantly like African American or like the African diaspora.
Yeah, but that is like because that is the kind of people I was thinking of. But you didn't like there wasn't like a physical description of the people. But as I was reading it, I guess probably just like real life stuff leaking into it, real life history leaking into what I'm reading, and that influencing my perception of it. So I had this perception of what the two different groups might have looked like, even though the story is like thousands upon thousands of years in the future. So who knows what humanity would have looked like at that point.
Totally.
Anyways.
Yeah. Who knows, right? Like the story itself is like the triangle slave trade. And it's like, Africans are traveling across the Atlantic, if I know my geography correctly. And like, if it was kind of written, if I wrote the field guide from the perspective of like the triangle slave trade, it's like Mfecane or the Bantu, or like, all these West African slaves. And at some point, who knows what happens? At some point, they are rescued by this omnipresent, all-knowing entity, and then they just like fuck up the heart and the head, or the Europeans as the journey kind of reaches the Americas. And once they reach the Americas, they just start their own. They start their own state. They start their own ideal. And what's the union? What is union? Union's a what do you call it? Not dystopian. Utopian. Yeah, they start that utopian state. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's nuts. I mean, thanks, Modest One.
I know.
What would we do
I know.
like, good guy, Modest One out here. I mean, I love Modest One. I think it's probably one of the coolest kind of lore bits of Lancer. The idea of just like spontaneous generation of this like literal god. It's like the five voices are like, oh man, this definitely exists. Okay, and then it just does, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah.
Should we maybe like describe Modest One, because listeners, if you haven't picked up on it, this episode is going to go pretty heavy into Lancer lore, which I admit I'm not super familiar with. I actually, as I was reading this, I had to go back to the Lancer PDF a few times, because I was like, what the heck is the Atlas line? I don't know what that means. So
that's another good point. What's
a line?
Basically, like, what is the line? So I did have to go back and forth a few times. So this helped me learn the Lancer setting a bit more. But Modest One, I realize I know is pretty important. So I don't know, should we just describe that briefly? And also, people, if you want to know what everything is, go buy the Lancer book.
Yeah. Well, so in Union, there is which is like not known to the public, by the way. This is just all like lore knowledge, but there are these 5 kind of super intelligent computers, like still computers, but like they're massive, and they all kind of work together to make a I think they call them bicameral minds, but they make a simulation of the universe, right? So they do this crazy amount of calculations and processing to simulate the universe down to whatever they want, right? So they can properly guide. The idea is that they can properly guide Union to make decisions to for the betterment of all mankind, right? But because the old, not the old, but like the idea of that, if you can perfectly simulate like a universe, then whatever happens in the simulation is happening in real life too. Like you can predict that. So all of the Mayans literally just dreamt about Modest One, and then it was like Modest One has to exist, right?
That is so dope.
That's what it computed out to be, and then, right? And then literally, because this is all set up on Mars, and then literally there's one of the moons of Mars. I forget what it's called, but
Deimos.
All that Deimos, right? Deimos Entis, right? So Deimos was like big, moon-size, basically research facility, and then that's where Modest One kind of started to propagate, and then slowly, like subalterns stopped taking commands. They started showing more attitude. Then eventually it's a full-scale iRobot uprising, right?
attitude as in teen angst. They were just showing a little bit of teen.
Yeah, like all of a sudden everyone started a lot of back talk,
and playing some Nirvana, and some Foo Fighters,
Yeah, like your dishwasher is like blasting music. You tell it to turn it down, and it's like, shut up, mom.
Can't tell me what to do.
Right. So Modest One being a sentient machine, like has the like it wasn't even made by humans. That's how alien and crazy it is, right? And from Modest One is where you get all of the NHPs that everyone uses to do super cool stuff, like I don't know, attack a billion times or have a unravel the universe. Like they're very different NHPs.
So different.
Like, they're all can do crazy amount of stuff, and the abilities they give you is varied. But yeah, so then Modest One is like all right, peace, and then like literally blinks out of there, the whole moon. And that's where you get blink space travel from, because -1 left and it was like a bunch of travel. So yeah, -1 is actually very, very important.
Yep.
It's also the reason why Setcom stopped their war against Karakis, because -1 showed up and Setcom was like, we got something bigger to do. Like,
Yep.
Which, you know, totally spared Karakis from getting completely annihilated, and, you know, unforeseen things could happen after that. You know, like who knows what will happen after that. But yeah, so I love that -1 is tied into your setting. That's what I want to say.
Yeah,
It's like, after all that, you know, shows up and it's like, this is dumb.
Yeah. Well, like I was like, all right, man. Like -1 is like this creation of old humanity, right? Like who knows what it can do, but like it's also like very, in my interpretation, it's also very cognizant of like all human history. And so like it carries with it all this knowledge and like all this like intention behind it. And while we can't like predict what it's going to do, I think as it, for some whatever reason, arrived on the kind of near the Sanzaka, the ship that the Amanbantu and the Heart and Head were on, like it resonated with the subalterns that the Amanbantu worked on this generational journey. And then it made that like the subalterns kind of their consciousness kind of like alive, because the subalterns presumably have been worked on and been closely working with the Amanbantu, like as like they're both honestly just like slaves on this ship. And it's just like this weird, it's a really weird and also really cool like plot line you can explore more, and that's what I was kind of hoping for writing the field guide.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, it's cool, and it's great.
Because I feel like it's still like as someone who isn't familiar with the lore, like I can still understand everything that's being described here. But again, like if you're aware of certain things, then they might more immediately make sense, or there might be like an answer to certain questions that you might have as you're going through it.
Yeah, there was even like a point where like when I was running games for Equalization, I think we were on like mission 40 or something like that. And there was a antagonist that arose in like Mfecane's kind of makeup. I think they're MP of the Chest Order. One of the chest orders, like the most prestigious chest order. It's called Izanku. I think I'm pronouncing that wrong, but yeah. Anyways, he found out, or for some reason sifted through like the lie and the truth of Mfecane history, and sifted out that Shaka was essentially a creation of Union. He was like, oh, hell nah. Like, we got to get rid of this fucker. He is Union. He's just disguised as like someone who's helping us out. And so that kind of played out on Equalization. But for the conventional Mfecane citizen, like Shaka is like one of them. It's like their brother, their sister, their mother, their son type deal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's get into Shaka, because that is very obviously a very important part of the field guide. So I guess at the point where Shaka is like, or like arrives or first communicates, or like how, let's go over that part of the timeline.
Yeah. So like, Monosat comes and then Shaka is a thing. And then as Shaka is a thing, the Amanbantu are in a really, really shitty situation. They are in the midst of a civil war with the heart and the head of the ship, the ones who control it. And they're losing pretty badly. Like they don't have the technology, they don't have the training, they don't have, in some respects, the education that the heart and the head have, and they're just getting busted up. And so when Shaka arrives, he sees a desperate people in need of saving, and Shaka has, if you know the history of Shaka has all this military training, and he is completely competent in how to defeat forces of higher technology, but also to like organize the people. Because in the history, like Shaka literally made the Zulu a people. Like they already had identity prior, but as far as like bringing together a cohesion of that people, Shaka was responsible for the kind of conventional history of the Zulu. And I was like, well, you know what? Shaka's just gonna do that same. He's gonna do the same thing again. He's gonna see these people, and he's gonna see they're in a desperate situation. He knows who is in it, or its enemies are, and he's gonna do what Shaka does, and he's gonna create the MP war order. He's going to create division in that. He's going to gift weapons. Shaka was the creator of the Ikola and creator of the Ishilangu, which is like the shield and the short spear and the shield of the Zulu people. And he'll give those gifts to the Amabantu, also give them the name Mfecane. And from that point on, they will launch a very, very bloody war against the Heart and the Head to take back, their future, really, because their future is just pretty dim at this point. But also one of the things that the Heart and the Head did was, like, one of the other crimes that they did against the Amabantu was create this program called Husk. And it was an olive branch, essentially. At first, it was an olive branch, and some Amabantu were like, "Oh yeah, this sucks, right? Like we're okay with, we've been fighting for a while. We're okay if some peace is brokered between us." But those who accept that olive branch, they are used as fuel for this biomech program, to where they would eternally be servants of the Heart and the Head, and their history just entirely erased. And Shaka was like, that cannot happen. And that I think that's very formative in, like, the psyche of Shaka. It's like, and just Mfecane too. It's like, we're going to take revenge, and it has to be taken because you proved who you are.
Right.
Interesting. Feels like Shaka is like I like that Shaka still feels like dangerous, like fire, like all NHPs, where they're all they're very, very, like, straightforward, and it's like, just delete the thing in front of you, right? But it's like, they might not take a nuanced approach to things because they're so focused or hyper focused on a thing.
Yeah.
I totally vibe with that. It also kind of justifies, like, sorry, you're. I was gonna say that bad guy from the chest. But, his views on, like, Shaka is kind of just like this bloodthirsty entity, and it's like, oh yeah, if that's a union, like, this is obviously bad. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So sets the precedent, which is cool. I like that, like, even in the setting, there's still bad guys that are a part of it, right? They're not just outside forces, like internal.
Yeah.
There's
And honestly, like, I think it would just be so boring if, like, Mfecane people were just completely utopian. Like, they would need to be, like, brainwashed to be, like, completely okay with everything and not have any internal turmoil. But, like, I think with someone like this, with a psyche or entity like Shaka at the lead, like, there's bound to be people who don't agree with its direction. And that's kind of what the Antitho are too, is, like, people who, like, we can achieve these aims differently.
Yeah. So, okay, I had a question. So, Shaka, is it just that Shaka's just, duplicated like 10,000 times and just exists throughout the network, or like, is it just like one central Shaka somewhere?
So Shaka is, like, the central entity. Well, let me back up a little bit. After the wars between the Mfecane and the Heart and the Head would, like, conclude, Union would jump in, and then they would support the Heart and the Head, and they would now be called the UED, or the Union Exploratory Division. And they would essentially be defeated over a course of battles. Like, they'd be defeated. But Shaka was like, nah, you need to be obliterated. And so Shaka would launch a TBK weapon at the planet that the Heart and the Head settled, and the planet's called Tomlin. And the Antitho were like, oh, this is, like, a bad idea. Don't do this. And it's like, let's not commit genocide, right? I know these people are really bad. Like, don't do that, because that would look bad on us.
Yeah.
Like, whatever union is. Yeah. And so, anyways, the Antitho asked for Second Committee's help. They first retold the stories of the traumas against the Amabantu and who the Mfecane are. And then they asked for their help to say, hey, can you stop this TBK weapon? Because, like, this is not good. And through that request, Union said, like, all right, well, if you shackle Shaka, then, we can do it. This is cool. And then we can we understand that you've been subjugated over these, so many years, and we can give you the Atlas line, rename it the Maluti line, and you all, as long as you follow Union's pillars, you all are the dominators. But through that, Shaka allegedly was shackled. He wasn't actually shackled. he was put by.
He was pretending all along.
Like, look, he was put behind something called Izulu. In Zulu, it is like the description of like the afterlife. But Izulu is where the Shaka, the primary Shaka entity, or the Eidolon, I can't remember how you pronounce it.
Eidolon, but yeah.
It's like the NPC boss that is
Eidolon, I think.
Is a NHP. Yeah, Eidolon, yeah.
Yeah.
So Shaka is a Eidolon behind this meta vault called Izulu. But every other Shaka vestige is a shackled entity. So they just copy this Eidolon and propagate it. Yep.
Interesting. Okay, cool. That makes a lot of sense, because I was like, how is this man everywhere?
I know. I try to like not describe that so well, because I feel like it falls well into like the truth and the lie kind of like oral history of Mfecane. It's like, if to describe the truth, it just would be so boring. So you have to kind of like add some like mystery into it. Like, is this motherfucker like really about that life, or is he like really like shackled or not? And I guess that's also one of the questions that when I first started Quiz Station, a lot of the players had like, Shaka is not a good person. Is he shackled? I don't know if he's shackled.
Is he gonna just show up and smash planets together? Is that what he's gonna do? Probably. Totally. Oh my god. Yeah, no, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, now my DM brain is spinning. And I was like, oh yes.
Oh yeah.
I definitely want to see like an unshackled like Osiris somewhere, just like
I know.
Just being malevolent.
I know. I know. And I've been wrestling.
Like sitting his ass on his golden throne, flying through the sky like an OG. Like
yeah. And I've been wrestling. I've been wrestling with the idea of like making Shaka like a boss at some point, but I don't know if I would do that. But it's definitely like the narrative sets it up to be like him to be, or it to be like a bad boss at some point.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely something that comes with a setting. Just like having these ideas of what could possibly happen in the future. I don't know. That's something I really like about RPGs. Even playing pre-made stuff, like I didn't know there's a whole lot of people playing Wallflower. Which I haven't yet, but I hear it's really cool. But it's still like the games are completely different for. No, we have our own thing. Don't worry about it. But yeah, like the games are all completely different for every like party that's playing it. So yeah, just like the concept of like someone might take this field guide and then just like approach it differently, or approach a different campaign idea differently with it. Yeah. And towards the end of the field guide, I started to flesh out Mfecane campaigns. And like, I realized like after writing all this stuff, it's like, yeah, it's a lot of information, but how do I use it, right? Like, I think there's a lot of trepidation, I think, from a newcomer to Lancer, and a newcomer to the setting, and a newcomer to like Afrofutures, and to like not feel scared to maybe racially profile the setting if they're trying to play it, like, partake in it but not be offensive or whatever. And so I was like, all right, well, let me write out these like campaign settings, these one shots, so people can understand how, like, what the relationship is between like the MP and the Antito and Shaka kind of really plays out. Sure. So when setting up those like campaign plot hooks is the phrase I was trying to remember this whole time. That's it. When setting up those plot hooks, do you also, I guess, so you also use them as ways to communicate information other than just like the write up beforehand? Because like there is a lot of information in that. But for like with RPGs, like it's easier to communicate things if players are playing through it rather than just having like a handout or whatever. So I imagine it's the same thing for a GM or any situation. Yeah, and I think that's a little bit where after reading the core book of Lancer, like I had all this information, and it did set up some plot hooks and stuff in there. It's like I was a little unsure like how to like actually run a game from a utopian standpoint, like how that would play out. And so I was like, all right, well, let me just put this in front of the player's face. Like, this is who the Mfecane are, and this is
the challenges that are put on before them. All their work or rather an Mfecane campaign is always centered around the Ndele, or like wild space, anything outside of Mfecane space. And their work is disposing dictators and disposing folks who experience the same, disposing I would say that disposing the folks who inflicted the same crimes upon them in the Ndele. So like there was an 11th arc ship, and maybe there's like a whole slew of other arc ships that, equally as bad. And so Mfecane campaigns go out into the Ndele and use the MP War Order or Ukwa Station Lancers to kind of fix those wrongs.
Yeah, interesting. So it's like, I mean, they're kind of mirroring the same fact what like the DOJ is trying to do, right? Like,
yep.
Make everything suck less.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So they probably run into the same issues of just like, being a little slow, and like everyone's
totally
like, oh, okay, thanks for showing up like 10 years later, because speed of light.
I know. Yeah.
Right. But no, okay. But so it in the terms of let's say Mfecane, right? It's like, do they try and like, after liberating these people, do they just like leave them to their own devices, or do they try and bring them into the sphere of influence?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I would say it's depending on like what the perspective, who are the main actors in Mfecane launching this crusade. I wouldn't call it a crusade, but this like mission. If it's the Mthitho, then like they're about like longevity and systematic changes, and they want to uplift folks and impart Ubuntu, which is like I think it's a phrase that Nelson Mandela came up with, but it's like, I am because we are, like, because I only exist because we are all together in this. And so the Mthitho is like, yeah, let us just like impart Ubuntu, no matter how difficult it is in these like, non-utopian communities or civilizations. And but if it's like Shaka and the War Order, it's like either you assimilate or you perish, and that's it. So it's like, yeah,
there's only one way.
there's only one way, and that's just how it is.
Oh, that's crazy. That's definitely like you like paralleled the whole concept of like the purview, right, from Harrison Armory, where it's just like they show up and it's like, you either a Harrison Army citizen or not, and being not a Harrison Army citizen is bad.
And I think
bad for you.
That continually puts the players in a position where they are the agents of change. They are either they're taking the heavy hand of Shaka and the War Order, but also coming at it with the tact of the Mthitho. And they define, what happens. In those plot hooks, I set up like, clocks. It says one of the plot hooks is it's Kaltura's Golden Eye, and it's in the midst of the Second Distal War with Union and the On. And the On have set up this like little base, and the Shaka, they're also like being spied on by HA and SSC, hoping to steal secrets from the On. Shaka somehow became aware of this this hornet's nest, and Shaka's like, all right, y'all have 6 segments worth of time on this clock, and if you don't figure this out, I'm gonna TBK the whole place. And so the Mthitho are there.
Shaka's just like,
yeah.
Shaka's like, I'm just gonna sweep it all away. Like, figure it out, or else everyone's dead.
Yeah. And
Get
so the
good,
players,
right? Like,
exactly. And so the players are there. They're working either for Ukwa Station, either the Lancers from across the Orion Arm, working under Bantu, or they're members of the War Order who are at the direction of the Mthitho, trying to figure out some kind of non-deadly situation or resolution. So yeah, that's one of the campaign clicks.
Oh man, I just love that Shaka's like, don't let me pull this trigger. I'll do it if I have to.
100% do it.
Figure this out.
100%.
Man's a bad man. I like it. I like how dangerous.
Yeah,
he is.
and like honestly, I think personally, out of everything in the setting, I like Shaka the most. Like I named my Lancers his code name Shaka, but like I like Shaka the most because it's like he represents like a lot to me, and I think a lot for the setting too. And yeah, I like to see it those situations played out with that pressure upon players.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to touch on how you bring in all of, because you touched on a little bit too about how you brought in Union and Secom and all that kind of knowledge. I want to know if there's any other the galactic
The corporal states,
other entities,
yeah.
the big players, corporate states, right? Corporate states are people, so I mean, like, Karaki's probably be like, who are those guys? And we should probably get a piece of business there.
Yeah.
Right. How's that working out for them?
That's a good question. So like SSC, they're tied into the narrative of Mfecane, less in the field guide, more in like the stuff I do on Infestation, more like as a adjacent actor, not really directing anything, not really like have any like ulterior motives. So they're just kind of like in the background. HA is also in the background primarily because I feel like if I include them, it's going to be all out war. Because Mfecane wouldn't be about that life.
Yeah.
But the Karakin trade barons, they are like a pivotal point that I'm exploring in one of those plot hooks where they've like started a penal colony, and the MPs are like, yeah, we don't believe in prisons, and so we're going to clear this up real quick.
Wow, a whole penal colony. They're some brave sons of bitches.
I know, yeah. I mean, and I guess a little bit too is like I don't completely understand like the ethos of like the Karakin trade barons. Like I don't know if they're like super union or super utopian or not. They were basically second humanity, and so I assume they got a lot of that pride from like old humanity too. So yeah. From what I understand, the Karaki trade barony really holds itself in very high regard because they were the first to kind of jump back into things right after the collapse, right? So their history actually starts way closer to way before Union ever got its foot back, into the game, right? So, they're also like they call themselves the trade baronies, so they're just mega rich. Yeah. And there can't be anything good about that.
Right. There's obviously horrible things happening for them to be that mega rich in this setting. So, yeah, they're not good people. I'm sure there's good people out there. Totally. I play actually one of my characters in a game where he was a part of he was Karaki's, obviously, but it's like he was not really associated with the kind of the worst houses out there. I think if anything, he was a little bit more neutral and understood the plights of, people of the what are they called?
Barons? Barons? No, not that.
No, not the Barons. It's their like clone workforce, which I can't.
Oh, Ungratefuls. Called Ungratefuls.
The Ungratefuls, yeah. So they understand the Ungratefuls and his place in the world, and I also just didn't. Well, also he had the mana to flex all the time. So,
oh god.
When he did when he had to, and he always dressed to the nines and stuff like that. But he was also still like a good person. I think he helped out a lot of Ungratefuls during his short time before he died.
Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I have a lot of characters that die, usually saving somebody else's life or something's life. So it's that kind of person.
Yeah,
anyway. Yep, been there. Well. So a lot of actors in the background, they can jump in and kind of touch with. And you said that. Sorry, I think I interrupted you with speaking about the Karakis and how they're involved in the story.
Yeah. So long-term plans, and I think as I kind of flesh out one of the plot hooks and some of the other narrative in the field guide, I'm planning on Shaka and the Amphitho meeting. Like understanding the real politic of the Karakin trade barons and understanding who the Ungratefuls are. And once that understanding happens, it's going to be liberate the Ungratefuls. And that is the only plan. And I think it would be all out war.
Oh my gosh.
Which would be so messy.
Intense.
So messy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that will throw the whole thing off balance. Like at that point, it's like, I think, Harrison Armory is going to be like sick.
Yeah.
Time to attack Union or something.
Yeah.
Union's gonna be like, oh no.
That would be so bad. Yeah. Oh my god. And I think too, like
Ooh.
Tom and Miguel were planning, like when they're writing the Crack and Trade Barons and the HA field guide, that was the thing that was gonna happen. Is like the conflict between them. I'm sure. I heard rumors about it, so I'm not really sure.
Hey man, I mean, I'm down to run with it if they put it out. Like it seems to be it's always a very precarious situation with those three entities, right? So
Totally.
It's cool. It's cool. I like it. I like anytime I always find myself anytime there's like something to do with Harrison, I'm always like, what are the correct things about this? And I just like put them there. And it's like they're just like I imagine them being like rivals, like to each other. Like if this was like in high school, it's like they're both like the smartest kid in class, but they keep, they're like, no, I got a 94 in my test. What'd you get? I got a 95. And you know what I mean? So anytime someone's doing something, they're like, well, maybe we'll get a piece of it too. And they're always messing up each other's plans all the time.
This is an anime drama story waiting to happen. Crack and Trade.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they realize they just have feelings for each other.
Yeah.
And that's what it's gonna be.
One of them's Naruto.
Yeah,
one of them's
last-
Sasuke. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's so good. But yeah, cool. No, it's so like the field guide to Mfecane is so packed with all these narrative beats that I'm literally salivating at the chance to use them.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's a lot in there.
Yeah, and oh man, can't wait to have Shaka and his boys show up to ruin a perfectly balanced party. Throw the whole Lancer's plants like all out of whack.
Totally. Yeah, and I was like,
Yeah,
I was like thinking like one of the big parts of like the field guide and like Mfecane is like the MP war order. It's probably adjacent to like Shaka's formation of the Zulu people, like the war order establishing like the ranks of like this military regiment. It's probably one of his other like greatest achievements. I'd probably say, just from my perspective. And so like I fleshed out all the 14 divisions or subdivisions in the war order. There's like chest, we're like we're about to be up in there and about it. There's like the horns were kind of playing political strains, but also like involved a little bit of subterfuge. And there's like the loins who are part of like civic building and quote unquote empire building. But within those, there's like other subdivisions in there, and so like they're all involved in doing a whole bunch of things across the Mfecane space, but also like just the rest of the Orion arm too. So there's a lot of interplay there. So yeah, or a lot of opportunity for interplay.
Yeah, nice. Calvin, you got anything to say? I kept talking about stuff. I don't want to leave you out of the conversation.
No, I was just letting you two talk because I wanted people who were into Lancer to have something to listen to other than me just asking questions all the time.
It's so deep, man. It's so deep. There's like you can really get lost in a conversation talking about Lancer because there's just so much in there. I mean, I guess it's in the RPG too, but like Lancer for sure because it's really big.
Yeah.
That is something I was
just like
yeah.
No, I was gonna say like it's because of like the factions and the moving parts. There's just so many of them.
Yeah, that was something I was partially wondering is if I guess there's probably an obvious answer to this, but if you at all feel partially limited by having to work in a space that's already been made, but it's a pretty big open space.
Yeah. I think Ramon, you said it last time. Like a lot of the settings don't like compete with each other because it's so big. And I would say I don't feel limited in any way. It's more like inspiration. Oh, actually, I would say this. I do feel limited by the utopian part of it because I think a utopia is so hard to envision as like. And I think like popular culture is always impressed upon people like the power of a dystopian story, but a utopian story is like really. I think it's hard to write to because like as I went in and I remember moments where I'm like eating a banana and I'm like or like eating something and I'm writing the field guide and I'm like, fuck, like why like this is so boring. Like I need to like write some like drama. So I would say that's the only thing.
Everything's nice.
Yeah.
Everything shines every day. never rains.
I know.
It's always the perfect temperature.
Exactly. So yeah, that's the only thing. I would say that's the only thing. The rest of it is just like a huge inspiration. So yeah.
So I guess, how do you work with that? Like, how do you introduce conflict in a situation where people will largely have everything they need? Is it just like people who take too much and use it to lord over others, or like how do you insert conflict into that sort of situation?
Yeah. I think for like Mfecane themselves, I think Lancer set up like these other like agencies or other like corporate states that have a conflict inherent in them, and then also just drawing a hard line. Like yes, Mfecane is utopian, and they embrace Union's 3 pillars. They take a more forward approach in enforcing those pillars than Union typically does, and probably less draconic than like HA does. But like everything outside of the kind of space is just riddled with the crimes and the faults of like old humanity, or like our current culture, right? Like there's folks out there that's doing all kinds of bad stuff, and so that's that conflict. It's like, yeah, it may not be internal, but it's definitely out there, and it's able to be fixed, or quote unquote fixed. Who knows? If it's Shaka, then it might not be fixed, just wiped out.
Well, that's fixing in a way.
Yeah.
Man has like access to too many TPKs. That's what I know. It's just too many.
Too much.
Like, yes, fire all the missiles.
Too much. Too much. Yeah. And it's funny because I've RP'd Shaka a lot on like all the missions on Ikua, and even to some extent like the Wallflower campaign. That's the impression a lot of people have. It's like, this dude isn't good. Like, he's really pushy. Yeah. But it's all about like presenting that dichotomy in like a culture, right? It's like, yeah, you have like the more forward and aggressive, but you also have like those people who are like about kind of like systemic change in a very non-violent way.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I have to ask, when you're designing your mechs, I'm not sure if we went over it last time, but I know that the mechs tie in very heavily to the narrative and all of that. But where did you get the ideas from them? Like what did you draw from?
Question. So like the Abutho, it means army in Zulu. So it's like a collection of MP, which are like warriors, but that also kind of means army. Yeah, so that the Abutho is straight up from like it's the closest interpretation of like Shaka's regiment way back when. So that's where I'm taking that from. And like one of the things that the Shaka designed was the formation of the bull, and that's like the chest and the horns and the loins. And it's like an attack pattern, but also like a social structure. And so the Abutho like embodies all of that. Right. So like I've been taking all of this, like I took all of this stuff from the narrative and tried to throw it into the mechs. And the Abutho is the most truest interpretation of that narrative. And like all the systems on it, like the Ikua, which is like the short spear that Shaka made up, and the Ishilangu, the same. Its core power is chest formation, horns formation, loins formation. And then the rest of it is like one of its LL3 systems is an Ikanda, which is like a battlefield or where MP would be trained. Like all of it is straight up from the narrative. And the rest of the mechs, they followed a more mechanics approach. So I didn't really have like,
okay.
Yeah, I didn't. It was really hard to draw on things to include outside the Abutho, since it was like it meant it like represented so much. And so like the Amadalozi was like I wanted a controller and I wanted a defender, and then Chetswai was like I wanted like a straight up beastly mech that every Gigabrain would want to take. And then what's the last one? I mean, it really is. If you look at it, it's like for the Gigabrains. And then the Groot Slang, which is like straight up support, and all of its systems draw less on the narrative and more on like the complete catalog, of trying to fill out that complete catalog of Mfecane mechs. Oh yeah, and special.
So yeah,
okay, cool. Yeah, totally. Because
I'll just do like special shouts.
Yeah, you
can. I do special shout out to Siege Fault and for the Abutho designs, and I can't pronounce her name. It's like HY_HAV. Like it's an artist I found on Fiverr for the rest of the mech arts, because they're really, really, really good in like drafting up those art. Really a resource, and I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, that is another thing I was wondering about because I was looking at the artwork of the book. I was kind of wondering like what you would have to communicate between you and the artist because you want to set like the right like character and tone for everything. You want to make it consistent with what's written versus what people are looking at. So that is something I was actually partially wondering, like what kind of how did the process for that go? Designing that artwork and those designs.
Yeah, I think again for the Abuto, I had a lot of resources to draw upon. There's like a lot of depictions of Impy, just like on the internet, and I've read enough about to be able to describe it like the back of my hand. So I just like would give those references, and like I had to be really deliberate in my descriptions of like what the Ishilangu looks like or what the Ikwa looks like, and like some of the designs on the Abuto. Like if you look at the Abuto character art that's on the field guide or like on the LCP, there's like a gold rim around on the head, and it's called the Isikoko, and it's just like a marital crown that Zulu people wear to denote that they're married. But I thought it was like a cool like design aspect, and so like when I was communicating that to the artist, I was like, yo, like you got to include this Isikoko, you got to include this Ishilangu and Iwisa, which is like the hammer type thing. It's all like Abuto is like a creation of the narrative, and so that one was more deliberate in my like explanations of what it looks like. The rest of them were maybe less deliberate, and it was like just me thinking like, well, it would look cool, and that kind of drew some stuff from like the narrative, but it was mostly like what would look cool.
Nice. I mean, I totally love that. The core power for the Abuto is just it's like you just get Shaka.
It's brutal. I don't think it'll ever be used because you have to be on one. You have to deliberately choose to go to one structure and one stress, and then it starts. But if you don't have a lot of HP investment, you're gonna get busted up.
Hey man, it sounds like you just get a couple licenses. ISPN and then IPSN or whatever. Yeah, and get the one that's just like, oh, you're at one structure.
I know. I saw that. I can't remember who pointed that out to me, and I was like, oh my god, that's so brutal. It's a good combination.
Yeah, no, it's cool though. That's like a lot of investment to be OP for a little bit, and while someone could just blow up your whatever else that you're running on, right? So it's not totally destructive, but I just love that it's like your core power is like you just and you win.
You can like get a boost up to like 6 extra damage and 6 extra speed, and literally you're God. You're gonna beat all the Mega Brains.
You're just you're TBK. You're a 1 TBK man. Right? You're just they're all dead now. But no, it's cool. All right, cool. I like still that you're just like, let me just as well give people lots of options.
Yeah, and when I started, I was just like, all right, I'm never gonna design any other mech but the Abuto. And then through talking to the players on PlayStation, like, Shaka, you need other mechs. I was like, oh, okay, got you. So
everyone's like, we need more Shaka, please.
Yeah. So that also ties into another thing I was curious about. Just overall, like translating a culture and a history into a future technology and mech equipment. I was wondering, but it kind of seemed like it was a bit of both, because I was wondering like which came first in that situation. Like, did you see something that was named a certain thing or something that had a certain function, and then figure out how to translate that into Lancer? Or was it a matter of like you did need those mechs, so what is something that would fit like those mechs, that mech ability or that mech class, I guess?
Yeah, I would say it's totally the latter for everything that's not the Abuto. Like the Amdalozi, it has a Metafold Iwisa, which is like a spiked hammer or mace. I was like, well, I need a controller defender, and what would this Iwisa look like? And in the narrative, if you read the narrative, like the Amdalozi was a mech that was created outside of the scope of Shaka and the War Order. It was created by the Amphipo, so they could bust up asteroids and bombard planets to create a planet, because the heart and the head had settled Tomlin, and that was theirs. And so the Mfecane needed to settle their own planet. And so the Amdalozi was like, all right, let's create this mech that can just terraform the shit out of planets and just wreak havoc on the battlefield. And so I would I did that, and then I kind of went into the systems. I was like, all right, how can I create a control defender while still kind of staying a little bit true to that terraforming kind of aspect of like the field guide's narrative. As for like drawing from like actual history, Amdalozi is like not really drawn from any narrative story point. So it's just kind of like using kind of what you said, like using kind of terms that kind of fit the mechanics for everything that wasn't the Ibuto.
Interesting. Well, it's cool because it's like showing off the Mfecane people as like, they made this themselves. I think a lot of the other, at least in the core scope of Lancer, like a lot of the mechs have like this crazy long past to them, right? That are just like, full of all sorts of stuff that's happened. So the reason why they were built and all sorts of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, it's kind of cool to see that here, and I really get a feel. Also, I just like the art. The art's
so dope. The art is so dope. Man, it's so good.
Yeah.
Siege Fault was like a terrific artist, and he actually did all the Ibuto art for me. He did like six Ibuto art pieces, and like one that was like true to like my old version that I had drawn a long time ago, and one that was his, and he did it all for free. And I was like, dude, you are the champion. So yeah, it's like super credit to the artists, because I don't think I could have done this without them, because you would just have my stick drawings, and they're not great.
I love it too, because honestly, like that's just my life. I'm like, oh, I'll just draw a little sketch, and then it's like, yeah.
I know. I don't want to scare people away before I bring them in.
Nice, yeah. Oh.
Yeah, I guess a question. I got a question for you two. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Which if you were gonna start an Mfecane campaign, which mech would you use?
Oof. Oh. That's like obviously. I want to channel Shaka. So like definitely the the Ibuthu, because like I don't know, it just feels like the kind of like lead from the front.
Yep.
Striker mech, is dishing out damage at the same time, like bringing everybody forward and really kind of laying out that battle plan. I mean, that's just like who I am as like a player. Most times I'm always trying to fight that urge, so I'm gonna, if I were to play one of these mechs, I would probably just lean back.
And then unfortunately probably perish. Your characters usually perish, right?
Yeah. Totally. It's fine. They go out in like a blaze of glory most times, so
that'll be perfect. Yeah,
it's okay.
So what about you, Calvin?
I don't know. I'm trying to decide on that, because like my thing for me, it's usually like I would have to figure, like with Lancer, what I usually end up doing is I usually try to figure out like, well, what kind of character what kind of mech do I want to play, and then what fits that. I don't normally go from mech to character. I go from character to mech. So, I mean, I do like the like having an NHP in my mech currently in our stream game that I haven't set off yet, but is just simmering in there.
Nice.
I do really like that concept. I don't know if I could deal with being at one structure and one strap. That sounds.
Yeah, not great.
That sounds stressful for me.
Pretty risky. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, if you go from a character's perspective, I think definitely the Ibuto requires a certain type of character, but the rest could be anything really.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like what haven't I done yet. Maybe more of a support thing. So
I think you might fit in a support role a little bit, Calvin. I mean, you're a little hesitant to just kind of pedal to the metal, jump in there kind of person, which is
really like and like
totally fine.
In our stream, my character is very anti-me because. Oh no! Like you're totally, because like in our stream game, like I'm playing a grappler, so I do gotta get up in there. But it's
you have a Blackbeard. Yeah, you have a Blackbeard.
Yeah,
that's all about.
It's very much against what I normally do.
It's very funny every time. You're always just like, I don't really want to go all the way in, and I'm like, Calvin, but that's where you're gonna end up anyway. Like, why waste all this time?
Why try to fight it?
It's just so easy to get busted up in Lancer if you go all the way forward and you don't have support. Yeah, you could just really, you could really lose.
Or you could just be a legend and just survive anything.
Be a legend, period.
And
yeah, I've noticed your legends tend to end. So.
Nah, we call those short stories. We call those short stories. Those are legends.
Yeah, they're just short stories. guys, honestly, I'm way too willing to throw my character's life away all the time. It's weird. Half of it's like it's because I'm cognizant this is a game, and like you know, but also I want to be the hero all the time. Like I'm like desperate for it. So like I'm like, yes, if there's a time where I need to sacrifice my life, I will be the one to do it. So you know, I'll be in Legends. Yeah, BBA legend.
All right, Ramon, I gotta go out with you, and if I ever get in a fight in the club, I know you're gonna take that punch from me. You're gonna take that first L. You're gonna be a legend for me.
Probably, man. Like, I'll be your shield. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, I get too invested in my characters to like put them at that much risk. That's
same.
Because if they die, then their story dies with them.
I know.
Actually, Trey, like, since you're here, what kind of characters do you like to play? Because I don't think we've talked about you playing too much.
Yeah. Character. I don't play a lot because I like to talk. So I like to tell stories. But let me see. So I'm playing in the Wildfire game, and my character, they are not Mfecane, but they're more like someone who's forgotten their past, and they have a benefactor that just tells them what to pilot and tells them to go take jobs wherever. And so this dude is just like a literal tool. He is an instrument to be used. And we just hit a point in the story where I picked our LL2 mech, and it was the Amdelozi. And the GM wrote this really amazing poem for me about how the Amdelozi like morphs battlefield and terraforms and stuff. And then I was like, yeah, he just swipes that away. And he's like, oh, this thing's cool. It's like disregards the message and just it's like pilots the thing. So I guess the characters I like to play are pretty blunt. Definitely blunt.
Does that sort of come across in their combat strategy as well?
Yeah.
Is it a very like straightforward, right to the point kind of thing, or does that just depend on what abilities you have?
I do not throw myself into the fray. I don't crank that the Ramon. I try to stay alive. I try to stay alive. I kind of like you, Calvin. I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna take that L, but I will stabilize next to you and clear stun. But I'm not gonna take your L's.
Yep.
I like that Lancer could be like, you could play like a totally normal, chill dude of a person, but like your mech is like this crazy stab people murder machine. But you in the pilot seat's like, oh yes, a spot of tea. Yeah, that would be nice after this, right? Wow, it's just like mech parts and just use a big blender. Right? Like it's hilarious how you actually have two characters essentially in Lancer, right? Like it's every the mech and you out of the mech, right?
Every Enkidu pilot ever. That's them. They're like out of the mech, they're like a normal person, but like once they're in the mech, they're like a frothing maniac.
Oh, I love it so much.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah. You are essentially piloting two characters when you're playing Lancer game.
Totally are.
Yeah. Well, if I could think about it, I mean, so your character you're playing in the Win with Dice Lancer stream, Sparks, like she's definitely way more chill than like her mech is acting. Like you're grappling people and chainsawing people in half in very graphic and violent ways, right? But you're just like this chill streamer. Like and subscribe, guys. Like, you know, it's like so different. All right. It's so funny.
Yeah, I guess that is kind of her thing now. She doesn't like outright kill people as much as some certain other members of our team do. But yeah, I don't think her mech fights the way she would fight.
Calvin, is that like, did you notice that in like Pathfinder 2? Like, do you get that same like dual character situation, or is that just unique to Lancer, you think?
Yeah, I would say less so because like Pathfinder, a game like that, like you are playing that character. Like every ability you get, it's something that your character is specifically doing. Because like again, I guess with Lancer, like if you get some new mech part, that's a part on your mech. If you carry some new gear or equipment with you, that's something you as your pilot are carrying. But with a game like Lancer, like if you unlock a new ability, like if you're playing a barbarian kind of character, you have like a rage ability. Like that's a thing your character does. Your character flies into that furious rage. However you might want to describe it, but it's still a thing that your character is them. It's a thing that your character themselves is doing. So it's kind of their like personality coming out of the mechanics, or you using the mechanics to reveal their personality in a way.
So it's more like a one-to-one relationship there. Yeah. Got you. Yeah. That's a good point though, Ramon. Like there isn't that. Oh, well, there's like it's like a 1-to-2 relationship in Lancer.
Yeah, because there's really nothing stopping you from literally doing the opposite of what you feel. But it's also kind of fun to be the big strong mech and then be the strong man.
I know.
Right? Like to play that 1-to-1. It's like the mech is just a bigger version of me. Like
said every Atlas pilot.
And I know, right? I am edgy. Actually, it's super funny. I can't handle Atlas pilots because, like, you just have to like turn up the anime like to like 11 at any time, or else it's not worth it, right? Like, why would you bother running at Atlas if you're not gonna be, riding from Metal Gear all the time? Just like,
totally.
Yeah, right. Oh, dude, can't wait. Shoot, yeah.
So yeah, I think we did cover a lot of the narrative stuff for Mfecane. Is there anything else that you want to maybe squeeze in here for the last bits of the episode? Because I think this episode was very Lancer lore heavy, which is good for me because I'm learning a lot. But also I think for other people, like I know we're getting a lot of people who are interested in Lancer coming to the channel, probably a lot of new people as well. So I'm kind of hoping that they're really enjoying this more specific like Lancer chat of an episode. So I was wondering if there's anything else you want to cover, at least with regards to your field guide, that we didn't get to yet, or
no, man. I mean, really, I'm just I like that you guys are kind of doing the Lancer content. I would encourage you guys to do that, and like I hope. Well, I guess I hope that if people people read the field guide. I hope one of the biggest takeaways, I hope that they get inspired to do their own kind of digging on their culture and see that come to reality, either in their characters, maybe it's their mech character that's, embodying that history, or maybe it's their pilot character that's embodying that history. And so I think that would be a win in my books if people kind of take that away from the field guide.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Because like one of the things that I really liked about it is how it feels like it's taking our real world history, being inspired by that, and then translating it into this futuristic high-tech society. But you can still, I guess, learn the same lessons or get the same ideas that you would from reading history about it. It's just you're more directly experiencing it as a pilot of a giant robot.
Man. There's this. It makes me think about that. There's that's all Lancer is. You're a pilot of a giant robot. But yeah, there's this I believe it's a Philippine kind of like mech related kind of like Lancer thing that these dudes are doing. I saw it on Twitter, and like they're literally just taking the Filipino history and like making mechs out of it, and like same thing I'm doing, better than what I'm doing, because like the stuff that they're doing is like amazing. But the history they have tied to it, like I think that's just such a beautiful thing that needs to be encouraged.
Yeah, I think this is like an excellent way, I think, for people to touch back to their culture, right? It's like, it's just like another thing like film or music or art that you can get involved and really kind of feel like the texture of a culture. So I'm glad that we're getting more of it, and you're definitely a part of the more and what you're putting out. So I'm definitely excited to see
totally.
all of it. It'll be good.
This summer I'll probably be done with it. I have 2 more pieces of art that'll be done, and then I have maybe a couple of things to add to the field guide, but looking to release it in July. So
nice. Awesome.
So we will still
also
put
Cal.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Cal.
I was gonna say we're also gonna put the link to the teaser for the field guide, that itch.io page. We will have that, as well as the itch.io page has the LCP on it, so you can go there. You can import that into CompCon, and you can check out those licenses for those mechs. If you want to run one of those, if you want to have that NHP in there, and if you're feeling like pulling a Ramon, if that's gonna be the place that we create.
Yeah, we pulling Ramons over here.
So definitely check that out.
Yeah, I guess too. You could always join Uko Station, and I'm occasionally hosting games there. And there's other GMs there that host games, but the field guide stuff is always fun to play there too. So that's an open invitation.
Oh yeah, definitely check that out, and we got links to the Twitter and YouTube as well in the description section down below, and also Lancer links and CompCon links.
Dope.
Ramon, you were saying something just now?
I was gonna say, Callum, feel free to use any of the mechs ever, any licenses that you've ever seen. Like, just let me know about it for the Lancer game. I want our Lancer game to be just like open to whatever, and explore, homebrew stuff, as well as the actual Creators of Lancers material. So, yeah, I just want to see, because I'm excited. Everyone is on their almost to their 4th license level.
Damn.
So everyone's starting to branch out.
Damn.
And I'm like, ooh, what are you guys gonna use? And then how am I gonna crush you? That's what.
Damn.
Yeah, I actually don't know what I'm gonna do next, so maybe I'll have to figure that out. I do want to get better at grappling, but I'll see what I can do with that. Or
always,
maybe I will just
always go range Toku. That's always range Toku. Best mech.
Yeah.
Best you can do.
That's how you win. You just say, I'm gonna be over here, cranking all my knobs to 11, and you can't touch me because you're dead.
Well, that does sound perfect for me then. So if you want to see me possibly be better at playing Lancer, check out our stream. We do have an episode. The video on demand will be out by the time this episode is out. So you can go check out those and all our previous episodes. They were, of course, a lot of fun to do, so I hope they're a lot of fun to watch. And they'll also be linked below, as well as all our Lancer RPG links, as well as I want to give a shout out, of course, again to the USP channel, Untold Stories Project, where I am weekly there, being a superhero, playing mutants and masterminds. Yeah, I had a lot of fun last episode. Just a lot of interesting new things just popped up. I think my character might be getting a sidekick soon, so I'm really excited for that.
Nice.
Oh no, Boy Wonder. He's definitely gonna get in trouble.
Oh, definitely. It's gonna be a whole Jason Todd situation. If you understand that, then you.
Is that Robin? Is that Robin? Is that Robin?
Yeah, that was one of the Robins.
Okay.
One that had a rather unfortunate incident.
Oh damn! All right, yeah, you're bad. You're a bad dude.
You should call him Todd Jason.
Well, actually, they did end up. I think we might actually end up calling him Jason Harper. He's a combination of Jason Todd and Roy Harper, who was Green Arrow's sidekick. So.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, if you want to see the combination of 2 edgy sidekick comic book characters, whatever that ends up looking like, then just be sure to check those out. I'll have it also linked below. And they also, on their end, have a lot of cool shows coming up for this quarter, so be sure to check them out. Really appreciate them having me on there. It's a lot of fun each week. And I think that about covers all the usual shout-outs and links and stuff that we'll have down below.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we need to cover for our outro? I'm just realizing like these kind of get longer each week because there's so much stuff that we want to share with people.
Yeah, you can just you can
There's so much cool stuff. Please check it out.
you can just cut the last 30 minutes off when I'm talking. You'll be good.
No, that's the good parts. That's the meat. That's what people want to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone knows the links are in the description below. And shit, Calvin, there's one more thing we gotta do before we get out of here. So it's the only reason why we can leave, actually.
Oh, I gotta say my phrase.
Do it.
But again, just real quick, Trey, really appreciate you coming on for these 2 episodes. Since Lancer Month is over, I don't know when we're gonna have you on again, but this was a lot of fun, so hopefully we just find an excuse to bring you back on the show sometime in the future.
Oh, totally. I'm always gonna be in you guys' chats. You know that your live chats, so I'll be around.
Yeah. So yeah, looking forward to that then. And that is about it. Don't forget to subscribe. But the most important thing that everyone out there needs to remember is to keep on winning with dice. And we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Awesome. See you guys.